Hi there. Welcome to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. Because of different time zones in this world we live in, it's either good evening, good afternoon, or good morning. Once again, this is the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We come to you live on Guyanese Critic Facebook page. So if you take your smartphone or your smart TV and you go on Guyanese Critic Facebook page, you will see us right now. We're also live on Daybreak News. It's not D-A-Y, it's T-H-E-Y, Daybreak News. We're coming live on that and on YouTube. So, once again, welcome to the program. First things first, Leonard Gildarie could not make it this evening. He will be here on Friday evening. But the show must go on. I am going to start in a very unusual way. It could be light, but I'm also serious about it. I've been serious about it for the past 45 years. Have you ever wanted to kill someone? Have you ever wanted to kill someone and this feeling has lasted over 46 years? Well, the past 46 years I wanted to kill someone. I still want to kill that person. And let me tell you what's the reason behind that. Months before I got married, I asked my friend from Wortmanville, we were teenage friends in Wortmanville, to come to the seawall with me and my future wife to take out some photographs. So I borrowed a camera and there were 20 Kodak films. At that time on the seawall, the train that Burnham had scrapped, the train was put as a temporary resting place and on the Georgetown seawall between Camp Road and what is now the roundabout or the pump station. So I'm getting married in a few months' time and my friend is with me to take out photographs with my future wife. At that time, flares were in fashion, flares bell bottom. So I can remember distinctly 46 years ago, I wore a jungle green corduroy bell bottom pants and a baby blue kurta from India. My wife wore, I would say, blood red dress. And so we were all prepared for 20 photographs. And I asked my friend to take out these photographs. When it was finished and we went to the studio, only one came out. So I don't have the photographs to remind me of where the railway train that was scrapped on the seawall. I have no photographs to show my daughter when I was courting her mother. The person that scoundrel who messed up is the guest this evening. We've been teenagers in Wortmanville, and he did that. I still want to kill him. So after this program is over, I may kill him when we go on till the Looney Street. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyanese, wherever you are, our guest this evening is a former politician and a very controversial politician and one who formed a very important third party in Guyana. He's also a Theatre Guild personality. He is a director of plays at the Theatre Guild. He is on the board of the Theatre Guild and he's a treasurer of the Theatre Guild. But I rather suspect the hour will be taken up with politics because he's very emotionally charged like me. Our guest this evening is former politician and Theatre Guild personality, Malcolm DeFreitas. Malcolm, nice to be here with you. Now let us start with you and a group of other people, including very famous politician Mansour Nadir, resurrecting Peter de Gas's famous, successful party, the United Force. But you guys didn't call the party the United Force. You call it TUF, and it was known in the public as TUF. My first question to you is, who was behind the resurrection of TUF, including yourself? Who were the key players? And then we'll go on to why the need to have this resurrection of this successful party of the 60s.
At that period, there was a need for a party on the right still. There still is a need for a party on the right. And many of us who grew up in the culture of the United Force, I actually grew up in that culture, you know, in my early life, etc. And because of that, we got members of the party, though the party was then a little bit defunct. Some people thought that it was died, but we got together, we discussed the issues that we wanted to keep in the public frame. And then Mansour came along, who was at that time a member of the youth arm of the party. And he got some education, came back to Guyana, and he convinced us that he would like to see the party go forward, and the party went to a members' meeting, and he was elected. Leading members at that time was Mr. Fredericks, who became the chairman. We had Michael Abrahams, who was a former member of parliament, who was representing the United Force. He's now deceased, a great guy. We had a lot of people, including Slugger, Mortland Williams, who from the
old
party
United Forces,
came back.
I know him.
Yeah, you know. And there were many of us, including some of the women who were very strong in the party, who wanted to have this force still be expressed in our country. And we did the best we could. Until.
I have known you for more than 50 years.
That's
and
true.
I know how emotional you are. So I'm asking you if there are any legal matters involving TUF, matters over property, your inflexible views on politics and politicians. Just remember to keep it out of the arena of libel.
I'm conscious.
If knowing you, if you step out the bound, I will have to apologize and ask you to withdraw the remark. I've known you for 50 years, and so I have to control you on this program. Before we go into the next question, why did you do me and my girlfriend that on the seawall?
Actually,
46 years
no,
ago.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I had a bad finger. So anytime I press, sometimes the finger comes down too slow, and the finger is what got on. But at least we were fortunate that you had one picture. And unlike many people who have had many pictures of their courtship and so on and so forth, you still have the wife.
All right.
And that's an important element.
Yes, yes. And it's the
Well,
most,
you should be proud that you
yeah.
have one picture and you still have the one, that lovely lady.
So you couldn't tell me when you were clicking, man Frederick, you never call me Freddie, man Frederick. Anyway, let's move on. So the United Force was formed.
No,
Why?
but restructured.
But restructured, but it was called TUF.
Yeah.
Now, why Mansour Nidhi? Why you didn't? Why
He
you
was
didn't see-
elected. He was elected by the members.
to head the party?
To head the party.
That was 1990 or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around that period. 1990, I think it was. Just around that.
And the party contested the 1992 election
Yes,
and
we
won a
did.
seat.
Yes, we did. We won the remainder seat.
Oh yes, I know
The
that.
remainder seat.
And the party gives support to the PPP for them to have a majority in Parliament in 1992. I think they had a seat in Parliament.
We had a seat in Parliament.
They gave some votes. They gave some of their votes in the regional election. The regional election results, so the PPP could have had a majority. Now, from 1992, what did the TUF did that today it's no longer in existence?
Well, I think there are certain elements when a political group does not honor their own organizational frames in terms of refreshing, which means you go to your internal elections. And that was continuously postponed. And many of us got very angry over it, right? And, you know, I mean, it got to dissipate the strength of the party because no internal refreshment was being undertaken. And after a while, people only seeing one body's face and the rest of the members, like, what happened to we? We ain't nobody?
But if dozens and dozens and dozens of people met in 1990,
No, 64.
64, but that's
64
dozens
now.
and dozens and
Yeah.
dozens. If 5 dozen persons met and resurrected the United Force and put Mansour Nadir as the president,
As a leader.
as the leader, what happened to the Central Committee, the Executive Committee, of which you would have been?
We did have a committee. We did discuss many things, you know. I was involved in a lot of that. I was involved in a lot of the campaigns in that period. I toured the whole of the country speaking all over the place on the issues that we agreed to. And that was going on pretty good. But I think many times I was in Parliament, you know, helping Mansour sometimes. But it just dissipated. It dissipated because the internal strength of a political organization always need for it to be continuously refreshed. Meaning, younger members of the party has an opportunity, other members of the party have different opportunities in relation to development of the party. That after a certain point, I think Mansour didn't want that to go on. And that is a part of the reason why the TUF, well, I can't say if it's dead, I don't know, but they have not had a campaign in last election, and I don't know if there's a leader, I don't know if there's still a group that calls itself the TUF, I don't know. I was expelled because of my same position, my position when Mansour adhered to the People's Progressive Party and he became a cabinet member there. I did not agree with that. Many other members of the party did not agree with that because we thought, and I said to him, this is going to kill the party because the party is going to be strangulated by the more dominant force. And that occurred. That occurred.
So before the AFC strangulation by the PNC, you had the strangulation of TUF, is that?
Well, I call it the Russian Ogbeer, right? And I'm not too certain in my mind what motivated Mansour to do that. Because it was contradictory to the philosophy and the principles of the party. So the party was in a contradiction by its leader or anybody from the party going to that position. I consider him a traitor to the elements of the party.
Just watch your language,
please. No, I can say that. I consider him a traitor to the elements of the party and to the principles of the party. And I've said that publicly already, and that was already in the media and it's published that way too.
Well, Malcolm, I think I'm unhappy with you referring to Mansour Nadir. Well, contextually you're saying he was a traitor to the party ideals.
The party.
Right, but we're not using the word traitor in a general context.
No, not
I
in
want to
general
make that
context. No,
right.
no, not.
So
I cannot
he
do that.
betrayed you, according to you, he betrayed party ideals.
And
what
that
have
is
you.
what he did.
Well, I have known you, we were teenagers together in Wortmanville. Someone like you've always been, one of the things that our relationship have lasted over these 5 decades is because you, like me, we fight, we don't let anything across the table go unnoticed or unheard, what have you. Now, why you had to be unpopular in TUF for your expulsion to have succeeded?
No.
Or was there some kind of manipulation?
I was a member at that period of the executive committee, one. And I am expelled at a meeting of the executive committee that I was not invited to attend. And I was advised of that after writing Mrs. Guru, who was then the secretary of the party, as to why we're not having membership and executive members meetings. To then be informed that I was expelled under there a month after. And during that period, when I was expelled, I was still sitting as a member of the Civil Defense Commission representing the party.
So who would have participated in your expulsion? Was my neighbor Brian McIntosh, was he involved in that?
No, Brian, he sent up the black flag on the party's flag post.
Because I know Brian McIntosh. He's
yeah.
a little bit of you and me.
No. I think he was a little bit more rough. I was kind of like a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more.
You?
Calm. Yes.
Excuse me. Let me be the best.
I think I'm maturing in my continuous.
Let me be the best judge of that. We'll come back to TUF. Well, let me tell the view something about you and I. We grew up together in Wortmanville, and then as we entered our 70s, we went our separate ways. I left you in Wortmanville. I went into politics. I went into UG. But I remember we then met up again in the National Service.
Yep.
And I remember we working together in the National Service, and somebody kicked you in the head. And there was a big fight. There was big confusion. Somebody kicked you in your head. Well, we come back to the TUF. But National Service, you and I served in National Service. National Service was institutionally, essentially, an undemocratic institution. I remember you got kicked in the head. I was right there. And you cannot have an institution like National Service with untrained, psychologically untrained soldiers having jurisdiction over people. They wouldn't know how to handle people, and they didn't know how to handle UG students. They thought UG students were elitists. They thought UG students think they were up there, and they treated those people badly. What's your views on?
Well, let me tell you my general view on the National Service. I think it was a good deal to me. I learned a lot. It gave me a lot of internal discipline as an individual. Tremendous respect I have for that. It gave me a lot of military training. It got my first book, Forward We Will, was published by the Guyana National Service Publishing Center. I had training in accountancy. I had training in storekeeping. I had military training. I think, to me, I maximized my opportunity at the National Service. It was a great growing up experience for me. And I meet some of the guys, and we still talk good about the Guyana National Service. It was a good treatment. But I agree with you. There was a perception, and I think it was merely a societal perception, not necessarily a national service in itself, a perception that the UG students was elitist and so on. There was that perception. But eventually that eroded to some extent. It was eroded. But that was a part of the frames in which our society worked at that period.
No, we see.
But I understand the frame of the authoritarianism that lies inside the kind
I'm saying one of the problems, Malcolm, we'll come to Bonham. We got to come back to the TF. One of the problems I have with Forbes Bonham is this man's total and morbid unwillingness to sit down around a table and say, look, this is what we're doing. And then his critics would say, no, don't go this way, don't go that way. And he would say, I am Forbes Bonham. Now, you cannot, my experience in National Service, now, I believe fundamentally National Service, how the idea and what it's supposed to achieve was excellent. Yes. That you open up the interior to, and you have these pioneers. And when National Service started, Malcolm, it was doing all right. You from Wortmanville and me from Wortmanville, two working class We could understand that. When I went into national service, I understand that I was no elitist UG person. I got from Watermanville. I was in fact looked down upon by these elitist UG students.
Oh, yeah.
But people have their rights. If you're going to shape something called national service, and you're going to take by that time UG probably had 100, 1,000 students. If you're going to take these people from Hindu, Muslim, Christian background, from middle class, I've always been a working class boy, but middle class people have their rights too. If you're going to take those people and put them in a semi-military institution, your trainers, your soldiers have to have an appreciation for the differences in human beings. And that is where national service fell down. I saw soldiers, I saw national service people whistling off women when they're marching. UG students, you can't do that in a military institution. Those people should be expelled.
No, Freddie, some of the things you say I understand very well because I lived through it in the 70s, right? I understand that. But I think it was more a societal problem. I think that the idea in national service then was to blend our society so that we could have these structures, that internal structures, either mental or societal, that ample the free flow of engagement. Some of that could be broken, and some of it was broken. And that was a good thing, so that the ability to share and communicate developed. It was more emerging. It was an attempt to create...
All of that.
Hold a moment, Freddie. It was an attempt to create a Guyana man and a Guyana woman, separate from the colonial frames that I grew up with and you grew up with.
Yeah, but
that we had to education to wash that out from us.
Yeah, but let me stop you. I apologize just now. That colonial frame was authoritarian.
It was.
You have to replace that you know what was wrong with colonialism?
I know.
It was dictatorial.
It was dictatorial.
It was authoritarian. It was insensitive to color. Right. When you make that transition, Malcolm, from colonial authoritarianism, your people expect the transition of authoritarianism to democratic consultation. When I believe national service should restart.
I think so.
I believe national service should restart. And it should be restarted with complex, sophisticated planning and training. So you take UG students, you take pilots and what have you, and say, listen, we're offering you a chance to go into the interior for a few months. We offer you a chance to see what the interior is like, and there are rewards to it. For example, we will generously give scholarship. We will find employment in public sector and private sector. When you graduate, you have that choice. And my problem is Burnham didn't give people that choice. And that is what went wrong with national service. And everyone, I see Major General Joe saying, he continues to accept that this idea, what it was to achieve, is a good thing. As a post-colonial, anti-colonial critic, I cannot fault the creation of the national service. My problem is how it was run and the shape it took. Now, before we move off of that and go back to your expulsion and come back to politics.
I want to comment on this, Freddie. I agree with you that the authoritarianism frame may have been the wrong sociological tool.
And it killed national service.
To use at that point. I agree with that. But we had a problem in our society that we still have, right? And that is discipline. And I think that Forbes may, I don't know if it's him or just the frame of the militarism inside the national service, it could be part of that too, that encouraged this authoritarianism to be expressed. And sometimes it was expressed very crudely, but it was expressed. And sometimes it was expressed very very greatly, in the sense that I get an on-the-spot promotion. Why? Because I was just good at what I was doing. Peace. But the point is, could at that period, when we can't look at 75 and 77 and that period with our knowledge now and understanding the society that we want to shape now, and look at it then, and we're seeing it now with our eyes of now. But our eyes of then, we may have been seeing it a little differently.
But
because we matured.
Sure.
All right?
Yeah, but that is basic to any any
I think I
society.
agree with
can't-
you.
Right.
I think
But
I agree with you.
My
that-
problem with the National Service was the
The
authoritarianism
social-
of Burnham.
yeah.
The authority. If Burnham, look, Mistress Jagan sat down with Burnham and said, listen, initially, let's exempt these UG students, they come from different the background, you know. Mr. Burnham disagreed. Mr. Burnham disagreed. Now, that is where this man rigged an election, is not the legitimate spokesman, the legitimate ruler for Guyana. The lady who's speaking to him, her party is the majority. Give and take with the lady, then say to her, okay, we will exempt women. But that is where the National Service, you know where the National Service went wrong? We're too long on this topic. The National Service went wrong because of Burnham. If it comes back and it doesn't have a Burnham, his mentality and his authoritarian mind, it will work.
Freddie, I just want to say something. You have to understand and still appreciate that Forbes Burnham at one time was a leading figure and a minister in a PPP's government. Understand that. So his friendship, although there might be a different part of the political corridors, might have been still there, you know, as a human being to another human being. But I do agree that the sociological framework of national service may not have been appropriate. That's as far as I would go.
I don't have any problem with that, and I think that is what killed it, and that is why it was abolished.
I think
it should be restarted. It should be restarted, and it should be restarted in a democratic framework. Tell a student who's going to UG, we started this thing in National Service. So you could be familiar with the interior country, rub shoulders with the interior people, and you come from Kingston, you come from Lamaha Gardens. We want you to see 83,000 Guyana square miles. So we'd like you to participate in that. There are rewards. If they say no, so be it. That's the choice. You know one thing I did not like about communist countries, the Cuban countries. I have a problem with capitalism in the United States, etc. But at the end of the day, there are choices. There are choices open to Americans that are not open to Cubans. Anyway, it sounds like if I am the guest.
No. I can listen to you. Freddie, you've been a lecturer in politics for 26 or more years, so I can understand when you speak. I don't have an issue with that. But I think, I would more say it was a political decision that started national service, and it was a political decision that stopped national service.
Well, of course.
And it will be a political decision to recreate national service.
Yeah.
And I think if we examine what we call the white paper, that was the initial concepts that was in Parliament in relation to national service, if that paper is modified with a sociological frame that give more adherence to democratic principles, I think national service would be a great deal.
I think it will be accepted in Guyana.
Well, I was not a UG student at that period. I went into national service straight line as a volunteer. I went in, I got a staff position, and I got to work. I started out as a accounts clerk. So it was not like they did have this opportunity for you to make a determination whether you want to be national service. And there are other opportunities. I
No, it was
never did-
compulsory for UG
No,
students.
for UG students.
Students, compulsory.
But outside of that, that was the only
Yeah,
compulsory.
but and for compulsory for UG students, nurses, and scholarship applicants in for the public service. But let's talk about your expulsion. Now, I know you had big problems with Mansour Nadir. Mr. Nadir is not here to defend himself. I know you as a friend, and I know you are a no-nonsense political animal, and you would not sit down in an organization and see things go wrong. But why has there been a rapprochement between you and Mansour Nadir? Because you were one of the really top names in the United Four, in TUF.
Well, let me
Is there a rapprochement now? He's Speaker of the National Assembly. Do you guys get along? Do you guys...
I look at Mansour and I like to keep a far distance away from him. And there is a deliberate reason for that. I have not received an apology for the expulsion, one. That expulsion was a Stalinist move because I was not invited to the meeting, right? And at a meeting where I should have been invited. It was compulsory for me to be invited, especially if that was on the agenda. That did not occur. So I think that he was disrespectful to me personally, and he was disrespectful to the party, to Solu. And I have no apologies in saying that.
Okay. Now, any intention by a group of you, there's talk all over the country when you read the letter pages, you talk to academics, they say that a third party or a multiplicity of parties are good for democracy. I genuinely think that's a sociological law that is very, very permanent and should be permanent. The more political parties you have, the more expressions people have. Is there any intention? I know you're a political animal. God, we grew up in Waterville together. Is there any intention to start back TUF or name it the United Force or what have you?
Well, there's been a little talk about that a couple of times, you know. It has not gone to the point where it could become structured. Whether a party in the multiplicity of parties as we currently have it, well, let me be very careful of that, because sometimes I wonder if that is actually true. You might have political groups of different names, but whether you have a multiplicity of ideas, of competitive ideas for the betterment of Guyana, at that level, sometimes I have doubts, right? But I agree with the observation that I think that not many, but we need a quantum of political parties which have divergent views, all in the intent for the betterment of Guyana. The difficulty we should have in politics is not where we want to go, but how we get in there. And as a political professor, you would understand the difference. It's not, we got to accept what we want to get at. We have to agree to the ultimate objectives. We can disagree about how we go into that, but the ultimate objectives should not be a part of things. There should be a part